The S&P 500 is setting up for a minimum 33% plunge as investors are frantically FOMO buying and leveraging up as much as they possibly can, when in reality, they may want to think about selling. Now, this all comes down to exactly what Warren Buffett has been warning about for the last few years and exactly why he's been unloading his massive positions. It all comes down to valuation. We are now seeing one of the highest valuations within the S&P 500 that we've ever seen in the history of this index, and as of last Friday's closing, the Shiller PE ratio, or CAP ratio, which stands for cyclically adjusted price to earnings ratio, has breached 40. We're actually sitting at 40.38 as of last Friday's closing. This is historically very, very high. In fact, anytime that the PE ratio exceeds 30 on the S&P 500, we typically see a drawdown in this index by a minimum of 20%, sometimes even upwards of 89%, like what we saw during the dot-com bust back in the early 2000s. This is a nasty situation, and we are setting up for a massive plunge that nobody is looking for and nobody is ready for. Now, I also do have this article right here. I'm going to pop this up in just a second. I want you to read through some of the details in this, and I'm going to point out some of the key details. This is kind of nuts because we're sitting in this extreme valuation within the S&P. In fact, the S&P has only breached 43 times. And this is the third time in which it has breached 40. The other times, we've seen massive drawdowns. Now, in fact, let's pop this article up before I get too far ahead of myself here. Let's pop this article up. Feel free to read through the details on this. Let me point out some other details. Now, we're currently sitting over 40 on that valuation. Again, the Shiller PE or CAP ratio. And again, sitting over 40. Now, here's what's super interesting about this. Anytime that the S&P exceeds a Shiller PE ratio of 30, generally the market falls to the degree of bringing that ratio down to a minimum of 27. The markets do not bottom out until that ratio has gone below 27. Well, considering that we're over 40 now, this means that the S&P 500 is setting up for at least a 33% plunge to bring the Shiller PE or CAP ratio under that 27% or that 27 reading, which would actually bring the S&P down to about 4,600 according to these numbers as of right now as we speak. Now, obviously, if the market continues to move higher, then that's going to be even more of a drawdown, but that's where we're sitting right now. Now, historically, if you look at all the data over the last 155 years, and as indicated by this article here, going back to 1871, 155 years, this is a flawless measure, okay? Anytime that the S&P Shiller PE ratio goes over 30, and again, remember, we're over 40, but anytime that it exceeds 30, we see this drawdown of minimum 20% in the S&P, okay? So, not saying that this can't continue on, as in the rally can't continue. It certainly could, but at some point, something's got to give, and this sucker is probably coming down in a pretty substantial way and probably pretty quickly. Now, here's what's interesting. Back in December of 1999, right before the complete bust of the dot-com bubble, so what is that, 26 years ago or so, give or take a little bit. But back in 1999, December, the Shiller PE ratio hit 44.19. Okay, so we're less than 4 points away from that, right? We're less than 4 points away from the ratio of hitting 44.19, which would be an all-time high, okay? Which is very interesting to look at. Now, something else, as I continue to do more research on this and look into this, what's interesting is of the 6 instances in which the S&P has breached a Shiller PE ratio of 30, most of those instances have happened within the last, call it 10 years or so. In fact, like 3 or 4 of them have happened just in the last 6 years. Okay, so it's interesting. Maybe this is the new normal where we are seeing these extreme valuations. Maybe, or just like everything, history and everything else, maybe it will Well, maybe it's going to average itself out and we're going to see a massive plunge of even more than that. We don't know. Only time will tell on this. But if we look at history as a barometer, and I think we all recognize this, if you follow the markets to any degree, which I follow the markets very closely, I'm looking at the markets all day, every single day. But if you watch the markets, and if you look at history, you typically look at, yep, history typically repeats, right? I know a lot of people say, oh, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Okay, fine. Say whatever you want. Whether it repeats itself or whether it rhymes, who really cares? All we know is that in general, when it comes down to the markets, history continues and we see the same things happen historically time and time again when it comes down to the market, right? So whatever happens, we typically see that happen again. And could this be the next instance in which we see the markets plunge because we're so highly valued within the S&P? And again, like I said at the very beginning of the video, Warren Buffett has literally been unloading his positions for years. He has massive positions, right? Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars invested. It takes a long time to sell those positions off. You can't just push the sell button one day and be out of a position like you and me, retail people with very small accounts. You know, we can just push the sell button and we can be out in a matter of seconds, right? Warren Buffett, he can't just push the sell button, right? He's got to slowly shuffle those shares into the market. Otherwise, he would crash entire stocks if he just pushed the sell button one day and unloaded hundreds of billions of dollars worth of positions. He can't just do that, right? You got to slowly shuffle those shares off to retail investors or whoever else, right? So point being is that we may be in a predicament here. Now, what is the catalyst to do this? There's a lot of catalysts out there that could potentially crash this whole thing. But just like some of the volatility that we've seen in the marketplace as of recently, we could see significantly more volatility. And we've been seeing this for a long time. Since the market bottomed out in April of 2025 after Liberation Day, that whole situation, all that drama, the market is up massively. We've seen a lot of people out there for quite a while calling on, we need this thing to slow down. It's gotten way too far ahead of itself. A nice big old correction would actually be healthy for this overall market. But the situation being as well is that when we see a major pullback in the market, whether it be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30+%, whatever it happens to be, this is likely going to crush the wealth effect, which may actually slow down spending of high-income people. And when that happens, there goes the entire economy, because high-income people, the top 10% earners of our population in the United States, are apparently keeping up 50+% of the spending that is happening. So if they cut back on their spending because of the wealth effect, guess what? The whole economy is coming down. So this could get nasty real fast, and many people are suggesting it's only a matter of time until we see another dotcom bust or another GFC, Great Financial Crisis type of situation play out. And they're saying it could be happening this year in 2026. Let's see. Only time will tell. I'll certainly keep you posted along the way, but I find this stuff to be very interesting, very fascinating. We will see what happens. I'll certainly keep you posted along the way. Anyway, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. If you have not done so, subscribe, share the video, big share button down below. Otherwise, if you happen to be somebody on Medicare, if you're turning 65 this year, if you're already enrolled in Medicare, do yourself a favor. Call Chapter right there. About 10,000 plus of you in the last year alone have called Chapter just through that phone number right here. Those of you in this community getting that free help, collectively saving over $2 million just in this community in the last 1 year alone, which is absolutely amazing. That's $2 million back in your pocket rather than in the pocket of the insurance providers, which we don't want them to get more money, right? We want that money to stay in your pocket. So if you're on Medicare, if you need to enroll in Medicare, if you're turning 65, whatever it happens to be, call Chapter there. It's free. You can read it for yourself, free, okay? When you talk to them, see what they can do for you. They have access to over 20,000 plans. I think you'll be shocked with your availability of options and flexibility that you still may have right now in early 2026. Anyway, after you talk to them, drop a comment down below on any video. Let me know how it goes. Use the word Chapter within your comment. That's the keyword that I search for. I'll grab your comment and I'll add it to my ongoing stack of comments here. Pages and pages and pages of comments I pulled out of the comment section just in the last 2 months or so that have been featuring in upcoming videos, and I'll certainly feature yours as well. All right, anyway, enjoy your day. Take care. Have a good one. And